All right, welcome. I got background noise again.
Is it music?
Yeah, I got background noise. No music. My live show has no music. It sounds like a bunch of chipmunks in the background. Anyway, this is Patrick Rooney. We are here live. I love live shows because you don't know what you're going to get. The show is like a box of chocolates. Uh,
Just
anyway,
started yesterday.
I work more. Okay, we've got our other man here on the stream. We're going to bring him in a moment.
Hey, there
There
he
they
is.
are. There's everybody. Woo! David makes me work harder on the pre-show than I have to do on the regular part of the show. Unbelievable. Anyway, we got you here, David, eventually. This is Patrick Rooney. Welcome to our live show. The show today is called War is Coming. War is Coming. And I have a crack. Somebody's making a whole bunch of noise in the background. Whatever it is, please desist. Thank you. I have my professional group of somebody's pulling a shade down or something. I don't know what it is. Just don't take your hands and remove them from everything. Please.
Don't shoot.
Show your
Don't
hands.
shoot.
Hands up, don't shoot. All right. Hello. Mind Over Energy has got the chat going, watching the chat as always. Yeah, he said it sounds like cicadas. If you live in the South, there's bugs called cicadas, and they make a ton of noise. They're crazy. They hide up in the trees and just make this really weird noise. Hello, Tibar. Hello, others. Hello, panel. I did a surprise panel because I didn't tell anyone who was on the panel tonight. So we've got Robert Campbell, my friend Robert, who is an artist and who's somebody's still making noise.
Sound like a chair squeaking.
I'm going to send some police after the noise people.
Mute me and see if it's coming from my end. Just mute me momentarily.
David, if we ever muted, can we call you your regular name? You've got a fancy name on you.
There's a long story behind that. Yes.
Can we call you your regular name or not?
Call me by my regular name.
Okay. That's David here, my friend David. I'll just leave it as his first name if that's what you'd like. Also known as Mr. Sandy LaFontaine, who I used to think was Miss Sandy LaFontaine. So I used to call you a girl in the beginning. I apologize. David, you're way back in the game, so you need to get your face up much closer to the screen if you can, please. I mean, I know you want to be anonymous, but let's not get carried away here. Yeah, that's better. As close as you can be. You're still a little bit far, but if you can get any closer, that'd be better.
People have always complained that I'm too distant.
Yeah, you're a distant character, David. Anyway, Robert Campbell is here. Robert is an artist. He also is a writer. He writes content for Rapture Ready and Rapture Forums, raptureready.com, raptureforums.com. Brian J. Pombo is here of boldactionnetwork.com, boldactionnetwork.com. Right. Hello, Brian. And Mr. Sandy LaFontaine is here, otherwise known as David. David is he's into a lot of stuff. He's an amateur historian, I would call him. Very good one, actually. He's, I would call you an amateur scientist. Should I take the word amateur out of the way so it sounds better? Just call you an
amateur. Amateur is sort of more like it. When you're
amateur philosopher.
Amateur philosopher, amateur historian. There's two sides of historian. One side is studying history and the other side is making it.
Which one are you?
Well, so far studying it.
Okay. Well, we're trying to bring you into the other part of that, which is making history. If you're on this show, you're making history, right?
Trying to.
Yes. You can get up a little closer if you can, David. You're still a little bit distant. I would say you're a little distant too, Robert. So everyone kind of look. Brian, you've been on camera a lot. You do video every day as your marketing job. So I would say get as close as Brian is if you can. Very good, guys. Okay. Here is the point of the show today, and I just want to see you guys in the chat what you guys have to say about this. But we're talking about war is coming, and I still have music in the background. Somebody keeps playing music, so please. Wait a minute,
like a fan.
Oh, my fan is in the background too. Maybe I'm yelling at you guys when it should be
I'd
myself.
say mute me for a couple seconds, then mute Robert for a couple seconds. See if it's on our end.
Well, there is a fan for me, but I didn't think it was picking up. Is it picking up? I've got it on a little bit higher because it's very hot here. Anyway, this is live, man. What are you going to say?
If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen.
That's what I said.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's what I want to talk about. China, the latest news is Biden and company have a spending bill that apparently just got passed. The whole thing is not passed until I think Sunday, but they brought in Kamala Harris to break the tie. Here's what they're doing to us. Here's how stupid they think you are. They have a bill that's supposed to be stop inflation or bring inflation down. Now, would you consider that they're the ones that created the inflation by printing money out of thin air and making it almost impossible to get new oil leases in America so we can get our own oil and gas? They're creating a lot of crises, I would say, on purpose, pretty obviously, and then turning around and telling us that they're going to fix it with more spending. It's really, really insulting. And I just hope the first thing people notice is, please, if you're not educated, please educate yourselves on what these people are doing to us. I would say get involved in your local elections. I've been doing that. I just came from a local candidates forum. I've been to at least a half a dozen of them. Find people who are normal people or as close to normal as possible and get them elected. And I would say do that in your local areas, in your cities and in your counties. And if you don't do that, we're gonna keep getting what we're getting, and it's just gonna get worse and worse. So I would just say that's my opening shot at you guys. Use the power that you have. Because we talked a lot in these shows about spiritual things and getting your life together, getting your family together. These things are super important. But if we don't open our eyes and start working with the surrounding area, we've got to go beyond our meditation and our prayer and our Bible reading. Those things are critical to our spiritual survival.
Did your fan just shut off momentarily?
No, it did not. It did not.
Okay.
I've got something, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just a thing going in the background. I don't know what it is. Everybody's got hands off and nobody's got music playing, right? Okay. Now, St. Louis X says, voting and politics in the current environment is useless. St. Louis number 9, excuse me. I said 1X. That was a Roman numeral. St. Louis 9, I'm going to tell you what you're saying is ignorant in terms of local elections. It makes a difference. Now, you could say, like in our county, and I know this about China, but it's all important here. In our county here, and we're in a county with very few Democrats, but they are still using Dominion voting machines in our county here. Why that's going on, I'm kind of making your point for you, St. Louis number 9. You could almost say, oh, that's going to make it useless. I don't think it's useless here, but I tell you something, there is no excuse for still using Dominion voting machines in the year 2022.
Well, if I can take the point of just the idea of whether voting or not is useless.
Yes, please.
It might be, but even if it is, you should still do it. Because by not voting, they don't have to rig the election. Right? If we're ever able to pin them down and actually show specifically where they fix things, you're not going to be able to do that unless you have enough people voting the right way. So you got to keep voting, whether it's useless or not. You use the weapons you have available to you.
I agree. Robert, by the way, if you can get any light in front of you, it would help a little bit. You're a little dark against your chair there. What's that? Somebody, did you just freeze?
Robert says he can't help being dark.
Robert just froze. There you are. Go ahead, Robert. Did you want to say something?
St. Louis 9 has a point just a little bit. I think the way they got it set up and as far down the road, the rabbit hole we've gone, it's going to take a lot of voting that you're talking about, Patrick, to get this back on square one.
Yes.
Because we've letting it gotten so down the wrong path that we're only voting in pockets. The media's got us all separated. There's only a certain amount of people who are going to see the truth, while a whole lot of other people, the other 3/4, are not going to see the truth. And it's just a mixture of lies. You can't trust any news now whatsoever. You don't know really who is telling the truth. And voting, like you're saying, Patrick, your districts and all that. Yeah, we need to vote, but I think right now.
Oh, you froze.
It's going to take a massive amount of reversal to get this right.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
So, and then where you keep saying it gets worse and worse, well, there's going to have to be a point where it gets so worse that it's got to go the other way. I mean, if you keep digging a hole and get all the way to the center of the earth, there's no other way but to go up. So to me, it's at its almost breaking point right now.
It should be.
So,
if people were smart and watched what was going on, it was at the breaking point before this guy ever got into office, in my opinion. It's just getting worse.
But we were designed to keep looking at our smartphones, look at TikTok, look at this stupid shows, the indoctrination of the TV shows that we see, the commercials, where the man, especially the white man, is the stupidest person on the planet now. Okay? They mock him.
Robert, your connection is bad, so you might want to look at your router or something, or plug in directly if you can, maybe to your router if you could. If that's possible.
I don't think
just
so.
do what you can, but you keep freezing in the middle of your excellent points.
Yeah. So I think we have a lot of work to do to get this reversed, and I think it's at the point, if you're a spiritual guy, we're going to have to start looking up now, because I don't see even Trump or whoever. It's a hard road now to reverse what's going on right now.
It is. It is. And I want to say this. And again, I just came back from one of these forums. I'm supporting a guy right now locally who is making a whole bunch of sense. He's going against the big time developers around here who are who basically are trying to buy the elections here. And they just put out a hit piece on him, and they just dropped a mailer on him, spending what I heard $20,000 from Tallahassee, which is the capital of the state, from big people in Tallahassee, trying to knock this guy out, who's going for the board of county supervisors here locally. So these guys are playing hard ball. I was watching a movie last night. I know this is about China here, but I'm just going to let it flow tonight. We can just let this thing flow, because it's all the same. I was watching a movie last night called Lincoln. Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the greatest actors I've ever seen.
Excellent movie.
Really good. And it told the story of how Lincoln passed the 13th Amendment, okay, which made slavery illegal, right? And it showed the backroom dealings that even someone like Lincoln had to do to pass this thing. And it's very interesting study of how politics works. Politics is a dirty game, but you know what? It beats the next thing, because if you don't play politics, you're going to have to take it to the next level and play war. We talked about war. War is coming. Well, war is already here. And war starts with politics. Well, it starts spiritually. There's a spiritual war. It starts between your ear and your ear. It starts in your heart. But it goes to politics. Politics is war. And people say, I don't like politics because people are always arguing with each other. Well, duh. That's what it's for. It's for people that have different points of view to battle it out to see who's going to have the power in a particular area.
Politics is warfare through other means.
That's right.
That's what Clausewitz said. And all war is dirty. All war is bloody. It's not pretty. It's like surgery is not pretty. Um, I agree with Robert on this here. It's a big cesspool, and it's entrenched, and it's kind of like a farmer who's allowed his farm to become overrun with fungal disease and God knows what pests, and now it's a jungle and it's not a farm. He's going to have to go in with a flamethrower. He has a lot of work to do. That shouldn't stop us from doing what we can do.
That's right.
Where we have the maximum leverage is going to be on the local level in local piddly elections, mostly for offices that don't get a lot of publicity, that apply to local bumpkin politicians over very local districts that generally almost never make the news.
Can I give you an example of that?
Yes.
Every time I go to the library, no matter where I live, the library is always leftist. They always, if you can notice with the books in the library, they're almost all 80% of them are people from the left, and they hide the books or whatever of the people that are conservative or whatever. And the library has a board. There is a library board. Maybe I'm going to run for it one of these days or something in my area, but there is a board for that. And there are people that can fight it out to see what kind of content is going to be available in our public libraries. That's just one example.
I have to say that in J. Edgar Hoover's book, Masters of Deceit, and then later on the treatise on psychopolitics, it basically outlines the idea of having operatives infiltrate key types of institutions and take them over, sort of nuclear takeover operations where people who make certain types of decisions like library boards, mental health industry, they get into a position, school boards, they get into a position, then they get their own other people into position. They sometimes even set up sleeper cells where people pretend to be conservative. They get into positions, and then they get others of their kind into positions. And then you find that the conservative books start getting thrown out and a whole bunch of leftist books get put in silently without too many people noticing. Or the textbooks in the school all start reflecting a certain bias, or they all start getting dumbed down.
This is why we're here. Hey, I want to say hello to a lot of these guys. Tony Bruno, Sylvia Smith just came in, said the unions and the school boards are one. Yes, that's true. Usually that is true. Brian is here. Brian says power to the people. Salute fellas. Tony Bruno, T21 surfer, Tibar. All these guys are here. I want to ask you a question, Robert, because we've talked a lot, and we're going in no particular order here, but that's the beauty of live stuff. You've talked to me about what do you call that, where a lot of Christians think they're going to be whisked away before there too much trouble is brewing here.
Right, the rapture.
Rapture. I forget exactly where you fall on this, but I've been kind of something in my craw for a long time. And I heard someone mention it today on Facebook. My friend Len Cross here locally mentioned this on his Facebook page. And just about what people are talking about, like, and maybe this is part of the problem with Christians. It seems like Christians are waiting around to be raptured and not doing the work of being salt and light on this earth. And this is something that comes back to me over and over again. While the people on the left get together, put aside their differences, and work and get people elected and do stuff in the real world, the Christians seem to be waiting around. A lot of them, and I don't see them going to a lot of the events that I go to. Some of them do, but I think there's a lot of people sitting on their butts and expect to be whisked away by Jesus. I'm not trying to be funny here, but and they're not doing the work of keeping their society decent. It's like they're just kind of like pulling up stakes and running away and letting the evil people just run. We're talking about people running the school boards and running the library boards and running the different things. What do you guys have to say? Have you guys noticed what I'm noticing here?
Yes.
Yep.
I'd like to answer it if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
But with a story taken from the ancient Greeks, and later on the Christians adopted the saying, God helps those who help themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, there was an old man and he had a wagon, and the wagon broke down. So the old man got out of the wagon and got on his knees, and he prayed to the gods, and he prayed that the gods send him a hero like Hercules to come and fix his wagon. So Hercules came. The gods sent Hercules.
Yes.
And the man praised the gods and Hercules, and he says, the gods have answered my prayers. And so then Hercules looked at him and said, you can fix it yourself. He goes, I will not but assist you, any man who has not yet gotten off his lazy butt and tried to fix his own wagon wheel first.
Yeah.
He goes, this is the help, the wisdom I give you. And he said, the gods help those who help themselves. And later on, the Christians adopted this story of wisdom, and they say basically the same message. God helps those who help themselves. The idea that Jesus he is the savior, he will be the healer, he will do this. The principle has been taken too far by lazy, irresponsible people to say, well, I don't have to work. I can collect welfare. God provides. I can live at home with my parents and freeload off mom and dad. They worked hard, so I can listen to music and play computer games and be in my underwear at 30 years old, playing games on the computer. I don't need to learn a trade. And I read the Bible, and it says that, the birds do not worry about where their meal comes from. The squirrels don't worry. The animals don't worry. So why should I worry?
Yes.
They take the principle too far. They use it as an excuse. They rationalize, and it's pretty freaking lame.
I agree. Buffy says, Buffy Gunt says, is this a men's group? Yeah, it basically is. But is Buffy, I can't tell by the picture because it's too far away from me. Is Buffy a man or a woman? I can't tell. I'm not trying to be insulting. I can't tell by the picture. You can tell me, but it's a men's group as far as on today. Yeah, I got 3 men, myself, 4 men, but anybody can come on and comment. Thank you, Buffy. I agree with that comment. Robert, since you've talked about rapture a lot, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but how do you fall into this rapture thing? Do you think that we're going to get whisked off the earth before we need to do any heavy lifting?
No time soon. You know what? Listen, Christians, in my opinion, good people, are why America is falling down, because we are doing just what he's saying, just sitting and waiting.
Oh,
Thrilled that they stopped overturning Roe v. Wade, but we killed 61 million babies. And
I agree.
Yes.
And I don't want to kill one baby, but so we have enough nerve to say, well, now we're going to start saving lives. Well, where were you when the 61 million babies were being slaughtered? Where were the preachers? Where were the good Christian people stopping that? It took 1 or 2 people to come up with Roe v. Wade and kill 61 million babies, but we got 60 million Christians in America.
Yeah,
it's we believe in God and Jesus, yet we didn't use what he was telling us to stop this. So now we're waiting on the rapture, which I'm sure it's going to happen, but I'm not waiting on it. Okay,
good
God gave us everything on this planet to get the job done.
I agree with that. Robert, can you just try to drop out and come back in, because you keep dropping every time you start talking? Can you try that?
Really? Well, actually, all you freeze up. I see Sandy freezes up. Brian is the only one that's kind of pretty current. Sometimes you'll freeze up, so I don't know what's going on with this whole connection thing. So I can drop out and come back in if you want.
Just give it a shot. Come right back in, and I'll pull you right back on. Thank you, Robert.
They're trying to block the man who has the most valuable message.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy. It's a white man's conspiracy, I think.
It's a white man's. It's not because he has something valuable to say. It's because he's black.
Yeah. It always comes down to race.
It's racism.
Right. All right. Okay. Anyway, if you would, Robert, give it a shot. And Tibar just says preach. So you're definitely hitting a good nerve with people. But try to come back in, because it might help. And
okay. Here I go.
Thank you, Robert. All right. So I'm gonna.
We've gone from the Gang of 4 to the Holy Trinity.
Well, I'm actually going to add. Well, I think I can add him right back on here. Let me see if I can do that. I don't know. I added you right back in, so I don't know what that'll do.
So we'll see what happens.
It might help.
All right. Fabian said judgment is coming because America is like ancient Israel with a special calling, who has dropped the ball bodily and has turned largely corrupted. I don't think anybody here could probably argue with that. Would anyone argue with that?
No, but as I said, if we're going to sit here and wait, God's going to just take His time because I think we're going to go through a lot of this pain before we get any gain.
Yeah,
Um,
and this is what I want to talk. Why I brought up China because, and it really encompasses all these things. But if we can just, people talk about waking up, and getting red pilled and things like this. But if you really wake up, you wake up in all ways, right? You wake up spiritually. Well, it's all spiritual in a way, but you wake up for yourself. You wake up and see what you're not doing. Somebody's making a lot of noise again. I feel like a school marm. Quit making noise. But if you wake up in yourself. You wake up with your family. You see what you're doing wrong, and you correct it. You wake up in your community, right? And you wake up. You just kind of like you don't sit back, and that's what I hope people do. Right now, as somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Robert. I think it was you, Robert, said that China is much more likely to act more now than later because you said Brandon is in office, right? You said, and nobody talked about this yet, but maybe anybody can talk about this if they want to. I know, Brian, you watch stuff like this, economy and stuff, but I have heard that China's economy is quite bad, that the real estate market is in the dumps, and that they have every reason. You know how countries get. Look what happened to the United States in before World War II. You had the Great Depression, and there are people there that try to start wars in order to get the war machine going, because war is always good for the economy. So this is apparently what's going on. Probably what's going on in Russia too. Russia's economy is tanking, and they started looking outwardly at Ukraine and elsewhere. Maybe Brian, you might want to.
I would agree with that to a certain extent, but
Okay.
I think it's more of taking advantage of bad economy worldwide. Every time there's a worldwide depression or recession, you have wars break out, and it's usually not unpredictable. What happened with Russia was completely predictable. They've been saying they were going to do it forever. They've been trying to do it forever. Yeah. Same thing with Taiwan. Taiwan has been separate from China since the communists took over in 1950 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they've been saying from the beginning, well, that's ours. And when it comes time, we're going to take it completely back. But they've always considered it part of China. So I think they're taking advantage of a bad situation.
That's
they're
it.
not just, they're not trying to, they got a 100-year plan, they don't care about the economy.
Right. Good point, Robert. Go ahead, Robert. Good point, Robert.
I mean, it's parallel to Ukraine. I mean, Russia and Ukraine, exactly the same thing. I mean, and I if they're going to do it, if I was the president of Russia or China, if I was going to attack, now is your time.
Power back.
This is the most weakest America's ever been, with the weakest people ever in office, and it's all about the dollar bill, the money, and the power. And we're being robbed blind from the top down here in America.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it back when we were talking about Russia on that episode, that I predicted that this would happen not only before the end of Biden's term, but before a Republican Congress gets installed.
Absolutely.
That's what you're seeing here. This is the rush, and there might be other countries invading other countries before November.
Right. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I have to say that also, Brian, predicting this doesn't necessarily mean marvelous powers of prophecy. You could say that Stevie Wonder could see this coming 20 miles away. Anyone with any insight predicted this, and I think we're all in agreement that we hope we're wrong. We hope we're freaking wrong as we could be on this. But one way of summing up China's mentality is we'll never get another opportunity like this. We'll never get another window like this.
Perfect storm for them.
It is.
We have a lame duck meat puppet occupying the White House, an imbecile, a meat puppet, someone whose cerebral cortex wasn't working to begin with, and now
he has dementia. Well, he's a sick man.
But keep in mind. Go ahead, Robert.
When you have loved ones that don't even care to put a sick man like that in the front of the world, what does that tell you about the people around him? Okay.
Well, that's the thing. He's borrowing other people's minds. He might not have a functional mind, but I'm not saying these people are smart, but they are smart in a wicked way. I mean, they are smart. They're doing all the things you would do if you want to take a country down, aren't they?
They're vectors. Yeah. They're vectors. These people are agents who are being operated through. And the Chinese see this. I think they're a bit hesitant because if they do go to war with us over Taiwan, there's a good chance they could lose and lose badly. But they've never had a window like this.
Right.
And in 2024, there's no guarantee this window is going to stay open. There's a very good chance in 2024, the opportunity opened, the opportunity closes, and they may never get it back.
That's right. What about their capability? I've heard people say that in the past it was a slam dunk that we have no problem with China, but these guys have come a long way by stealing technology, by putting a lot of money in their military. Does you guys have anybody have a comment they want to make about the capability?
We are going to have a heck of a war. Okay, it's going to be a nasty. No, we don't have a slam dunk over China. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't care what all the technology we got. It's the mindset of the people, the ones running it. No, we don't have a slam dunk against China. They'll have a slam dunk against us because they're going to mean what they're doing. They're going to do everything they can and use everything possible to destroy. Okay.
Well, people seem to have some idea that Xi, what's his name, the leader of China, is some type of moderate to some extent, when there's no indication that this guy is anything more than just a guy willing to wait his time and be very patient. But this guy's a patient killer. He's not like a moderate.
There ain't no such thing as a moderate leader in China.
Right, that's right. He's more like a Mao Zedong type of follower, as far as I've heard.
Evil. Okay, he's an evil man in a suit that looks good and talks good, but behind the scenes, he's a major communist.
Yes. And that in the end, this isn't about, physical capabilities of military. That's not what wins and loses wars. It's the will of the leadership. And we already know where the will of the leadership of the U.S. is going. Well, so that we've already said we're not going to fight them. We already said we're going to let them in.
Right. They had.
It's not going to happen. There will not be a war.
They had spokespeople say they weren't going to do anything if China invaded Taiwan. Right? One of Biden's spokespeople just said that a few days ago.
That's right.
And if they do attack Taiwan, do you think we're going to ask Russia for help?
No, not after not after throwing Russia under the bus.
We're in some hot water now.
Yeah. My friend Alan Len, I mentioned my friend Alan Len earlier, and he said Obama's running things behind the scenes, which I agree personally.
I think he's way at the top there.
I don't believe so.
Oh, really?
Obama wasn't even in charge of his own administration.
Who was then?
There's a number of people that were at the top of that, but he's not a mastermind. he is a person that's involved, but he is no brainiac.
I personally think that Obama, and I don't want to get on a tangent on this, but my personal feeling for many years has been that Obama is way at the top, close to the top of the food chain. A lot of people disagree. A lot of people disagree with me, but the reason I say that is not because on his own. If you ever read the book of Daniel, it talks about a ingenious-minded man, and it says that he has power, but not of his own. He's like one of those guys. Speaking of pipelines, to me, he has a pipeline directly to Satan. He is a puppet of Satan, in my opinion. Maybe Alan Lynn agrees with me.
You there. I think he's more powerful than most people think behind the scenes. Even when he was running for president, he was very, very genius in how he ran things. I mean, he was evil. He was pure evil.
They've shown the people that came up with the campaign slogans and everything else.
I don't mean that.
Obama's never come up with anything. He has a natural charisma.
Okay.
And that's about it. He's pretty empty. If you try and get him on any type of topic and try and argue about it, he gives the basic talking points that every liberal senator would give and doesn't do a very good job.
Okay.
He's no mastermind.
I'm going to say my last piece on this, Brian. I'm going to let David, who may be chomping at the bit here, come in. People like Obama, I would call him a very sociopathic kind of person. Okay, pretends he loves everybody, really has a lot of hatred. People like, and I would say Hitler. Let's go back to the past. Hitler didn't know how to do a lot of stuff personally, but he knew how to motivate and move men to do things for him. Every sociopath or psychopath is good at that kind of stuff. I put him under the category of sociopath who has a lot of people he knows how to work, I would say, for him and with him. That's the last I will say on that subject. Go ahead, Brian, and then David, please.
Oh, I don't have anything.
Okay, go ahead, David, if you had something. I think you did.
I'd like to add to your comment. Essentially, these sociopaths are basically high-profile pimps, pimping out the rest of society. They're smooth talking. They can basically screw over an entire civilization and make them feel like they're somehow being massaged while they're doing it.
Right.
It's kind of like
I look at Obama, the type of man that if he was in the same room with it, would be hard for you to say no to him because he has so much charisma and the way he gets things done. It'd be hard for you to say no. And
I agree. Look what Boehner, when Boehner met with him, Boehner came in, oh, I'm going to get tough with this guy. He left like a sad little puppy after he met with Obama. Obama said something to him. I've heard people say that, and I agree.
These unconflicted people are very good at short-circuiting processes in your brain. They could speak,
right,
do a decoupling mechanism, and you don't really understand what's happened, but before you've known it, you've conformed to a certain pattern that they have set.
Right.
And it's
like almost in the room with Satan.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
They play a tune, and we fall in line with patterns. They project a pattern like a frequency, and people are very good at falling in line to a type of march or pattern, especially if it's well orchestrated, if it's well composed.
I agree. And let me just put that one more thing to Brian on this, because I want to get you a chance to kind of maybe last word on this. But there's a difference between how well someone can speak to policy, for instance, and do they have that? And Hitler had this.
Right.
Do they have that undercurrent of evil that allows them to go beyond policy to influence you the way David was talking about?
Well, I'll tell you, just I haven't heard many people that have been in his person that say that he has that type of personal one-on-one charisma. I haven't heard that, but who I did hear that a lot about, like from people I knew, was Clinton. So I remember I was talking with Congressman Doolittle. I did some work for him when I worked in D.C. John Doolittle used to be a congressman in California, a very conservative guy. And he talked about going on Air Force One with Clinton. And they have gone, I mean, there's nothing they agree on, nothing at all with Bill Clinton. And he said, we're sitting there talking, and he says, sure enough, if it wasn't after a while that I was starting to like the turkey. Yeah. He said he had the ability, and I've heard this from many people.
Yeah, that's another one.
He can completely tweet you in person. I've never heard anyone say that about Obama. Ever.
But I don't think Bill Clinton is very likable as a person, supposedly, have a beer and whatever with him, but he's a, scumbag person.
Yeah.
But and I've heard how evil Hillary Clinton is. I've heard a lot of stories about her. This is just my gut instinct. Okay. My gut is that Obama is more closer to Satan than any of these people.
I agree.
It could be. It's just his results. None of the results prove out either. He was president for 8 years. He didn't do half as much damage as we thought he was going to do.
I think he did a lot of stuff underneath the surface that was very damaging.
Stuff under the surface. Yes. He did some horribly rotten things, but nothing as bad as we thought. Most conservatives I knew after the election against Romney, when he got in for a second time, they were saying this is the end of the U.S. It's over. We might as well just pack it in, find a cave to move into, because it's done.
Wait. Fabian says that right now. I'm afraid we're done.
I know, and that'll always be the thing, is that we're done no matter what. It's over, and you could always say that it has gotten worse. It will always continue to get worse.
Okay.
At the same time, people the good guys are getting better. There's ways for us to be able to make a difference. And even if everything gets shut down and they come after us door to door, you still got to have a resistance. There's no end to this.
Yes.
There's no point at which we completely win, and there's no point at which we completely lose. It's a forever game. As long as we're here, we got to be at work.
Great. I agree with that. And that, go ahead, Robert, and then I'm going to make a
If there's a World War I and there was a World War II, what makes you think there can't be a World War III?
There's going to be a World War III. That's what we're talking about right now. This is what go ahead, Robert.
No, I'm done.
My family gets mad at me and they basically say, shut up and let your guests talk.
Well, yeah,
I got them in my ear all the time, like a little voice in my head saying, shut up and let the guests talk.
The little voice looks like your son and your wife.
That's right.
But,
go ahead, Dave.
I'd say a little bit of history here. During the Korean War, of course, we know about what happened with Truman and MacArthur. And MacArthur wanted to make a deal with Chiang Kai-shek. He basically had the idea, let's go ahead and use the atomic bomb. Let's invade China for real. Let's get hard. They want to send 30 divisions across the line into Korea. Let's go all out. Let's have a full out all war, and let's have the showdown, and let's use our full capability, and let's wipe out their cities. Let's put Chiang Kai-shek back in charge of mainland China. And Truman, of course, disagreed with this. The decision was based, in a nutshell, on the idea that China could survive a nuclear war. China and the Communist Party could survive, Red China could survive a nuclear war. That was the opinion of Chairman Mao. That was the opinion of the Chinese Communists, and that was the opinion of Truman, that they could and would survive a nuclear war. And we would be in for one heck of a fight, that we wouldn't be able to do it with atom bombs dropped by the Air Force or missiles. And our entire army wouldn't be enough to take them out. So this was part of the reason why we didn't go all out against them. It wasn't going to be a cakewalk.
Interesting, because that's even more true today.
Yeah.
Now, I have a comment here. There's a comment that caught me here by Tibar, and I want to get your guys' feelings on this too, but it's something struck me about this comment. Tibar said, the current administration doesn't have the political will to fight, okay? Okay, that is true against our enemies, but they have the political will to fight us.
Yes.
So what is wrong with us that we're not causing fear? And I'm going to talk about fear like we're going to get up in arms or something. I'm talking about political fear, fear that we will just say, no, enough is enough. Why don't our leaders have the fear of us like they do of our enemies?
There's no face to it yet. I mean, other than Trump, which everyone knows where he's coming from and what he's doing, but they're not necessarily sure of what he's capable of, because we don't really know if he's going to be in the health and everything else necessary to run for president again. Other than Trump, maybe DeSantis, who else is out there that you say, wow, that person is the face of the opposition?
Yeah, not very few.
Yeah, but with the media all broken up, social media running the show. I mean, I don't care what doesn't matter. Fox News, it doesn't matter. It's all broken up. Only a small pocket of people look at this show. Small pocket of people look at this show, but we don't have one massive group of people that support America in a way that we have the will to fight like they have in China. I mean, you got over 200 million men over in China that are ready to go fight. Where's the 200 million men here that want to go fight? We're going to fight little small things, about, what's on the food chain or something small that ain't that important, when behind the scenes, evil has a tendency to work overtime to get what they want.
Yeah.
Conservatives just sit back and just enjoy life and don't look what's going on behind them. While we're looking one way, evil is attacking you the other way. So now they got their foothold not in the door, but down the hallway in your bedroom door now. How are you going to get them out the back front door now?
Yeah, I agree. And
we have to. Let me answer
go
that.
ahead, David.
Okay, I have to concur with this, and I have to just add on that the conservatives in this country, which I guess we are, I think I'm safe enough saying this for the most part, we have been pathetic. We have been washed up. When the enemy takes one look at us, they gain instant confidence in their cause. When they look in our direction, fear goes from them, and they are emboldened by what they see. And they realize that their fears were probably never justified in the first place. Okay. The conservatives have been pathetic, and we have been demoralized through television, through radio music in our cars, through commercials, through consumer goods. Most of us are so jacked up in the heads, we can't park our cars in our garages because our garages are loaded with consumer goods that were bought by compulsion because there was some screw loose in our brains. We were conditioned.
They were made in China.
That were crap made in China, stuff made in China, like this.
Like stuff you got around.
Yeah, like this thing here. I was having difficulty because this piece of junk in China wasn't transmitting on all 4 USB ports, so I had to plug directly into the computer, and I couldn't. Okay,
it's a conspiracy.
Okay, well, in a sense, it sort of is. What we need to do to start with baby steps is to take back our throsos, to take back our guts, to take back our being in little steps. And at the local level, but even more fundamental than that, we need to organize ourselves with other people with like minds and actually do stuff.
Yes.
And we better keep it simple, because we are so demoralized and so dysfunctional, we cannot handle complex maneuvers. We have to keep it to simple maneuvers before we can graduate to complex maneuvers. We better not start businesses because that's too complex. We're too retarded. We better instead learn skills and trades and limit it, because we are too dysfunctional to handle business. We're too dysfunctional. How do I put it?
David, you can't say retarded these days.
Okay. Yeah, but the point is that we should be starting our own business. We start our own cooperative enterprises, and where everyone in the family works together, and we actually manufacture our own goods and do prototypes and change the technology.
Right.
But we've been retarded. We've been crippled, so that most of us, compared to our great grandparents, are mental cripples. We have no adaptability.
I agree.
We would starve to death.
No adaptability.
We're too stupid to make use of knowledge we already have and skills we already have and use it in different ways than we were exactly taught.
Okay, David, I agree, because I know you can go on a long time with this, but just for a matter of time, I agree with you. This is part of why I want to do the show tonight, because, and I haven't really said this in words, but I think we've implied it already. China, and I heard Jeff Nyquist the other night talking on a podcast, the Man in America podcast, and I may get him on one day. I'm talking to him already. I might get him on soon. But he was talking about, where does this end? In other words, China going after Taiwan, Ukraine, Russia going after Ukraine and so forth, especially on China's behalf, but also Russia too. They're not going to just stop, even if they do, and it looks like they probably will go after Taiwan and so forth. Their ultimate goal is America, right? China wants world domination. They're all over the place. They're in Africa, taking over right now.
China is Shenwan, the central kingdom, the center of the world, the central civilization, and all the countries around it are barbarian nations, inferior, which should be beholden and do homage to the central kingdom. And they're going to reclaim their place in the world. And all of us barbarians with less gray matter in our barbarian brains than the Han race, the superior Chinese race, we will be dominated, and they will once again take up their place as the superpower, the one superpower on the planet. And this anomaly of the United States and the Western Europeans, they're humiliated from the Opium Wars, where little England kicked Chinese butt in their own territory, okay, on their own soil, and made them look real stupid. The Europeans have been making Chinese look stupid for a few hundred years now, and they have a vendetta, and they're going to reclaim their place in the world. And if they have to sell us fentanyl and import fentanyl, that's their revenge for us importing opium into their country.
So is it fair to say, and I believe this is true, I'm sure you guys would probably agree with me, when I say war is coming, war is already here. The political war is already upon us. China declared war on us by sending fentanyl here, by flooding our markets with cheap goods, by all sorts of means, by sending us
TikTok,
by sending us by
Ooh,
sending us by giving us TikTok, while they give their own countrymen, they give their own boys and girls a different version of TikTok, which actually teaches them useful skills, while they give us 30-second doses of what do you call that? Opium doses, basically, in 30-second increments. So they've declared war on us a long time ago. We just haven't recognized it. And I, if nothing else, I want people to understand with tonight's broadcast that they've already declared war on us. That, you know, you've Robert, you've read Revelations, and some of you guys, I'm sure you guys have read Revelations, Daniel, and some of these prophetic books too, David as well. These things are kind of laid out. I mean, they're going for us. They are coming for us. They're coming for Israel at some point. You've talked about that a lot, Robert, as well.
You need to watch.
Their end game even is Israel, even beyond the United States in some ways.
It's all going to boil down to that tiny, tiny little nation of Israel. If everybody just keep their eyes on what's going on there, you'll see where this is all going, because it's all going to point to attacking Israel. That I believe 100%. It's all about them, because Satan hates the Jews, because the Jews brought the Bible, the Jews brought Jesus, Jews, you know, brought all the knowledge, you know, to the world, and Satan hates that, and it's going to boil down to that one little nation. The people in Israel are kind of crazy, but the land of Israel we are not allowed to touch, and you will see they will survive the whole mess, and in the end they're going to lose. But at the meantime, I'm not going to wait on it. I still have to get up and go to work. I still pay my bills. I have to go through all this mud and crap just, you know, keep food in my icebox. So I can't sit there. I'll pray, but I'm not going to pray and not do anything. And most of these Christians are sitting back waiting. When they could change it if they get off their behinds and really believe in what they've been going to Sunday school on.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I want to talk again further on what we can do. David touched on this. I'm going to get back to this, having to do with content. This is one thing we could do. We're doing public, where we're basically putting out information, but there's also a private face of this too. There's private things we can do. There's web conferencing we can do privately. I suggest everybody do that. Find one that's as private as possible. Like Jitsi Meet is a good one. And start doing private conferences and start talking to people, because we're going to need to be networking. As David's been pushing this, he's the acolyte of networking.
I'd like if I can to talk a
Go
little
ahead.
bit about, okay, there's the yeast and there's the bread dough, okay? And maybe most of the Christians, most of the so-called conservatives, whatever, who are sitting on their butts waiting for Hercules to fix all their wagon wheels, are waiting for Trump to do it all for them, or some other Big Daddy Trump. Okay, maybe they're the bread dough. And then we, being the more awake Christians and conservatives who are less dysfunctional, okay, maybe we're the yeast, because we have one brain cell working more than the other sleeping Christians, and that one brain cell more is maybe what's going to turn the tide. We can act as the yeast. The yeast doesn't do all the work, but the yeast activates the rest of the bread dough to rise. So if we do what we're supposed to be doing with the networking and with the skills and with advocating the right things, the others who cannot come up with this themselves, they are amendable to where they will say, hey, this is good. We are in agreement with it. We will adopt these practices. We can catch the drift. If someone else, you know, catch the drift net. Okay.
Yeah.
We can catch the net. If someone else throws the drift net out, we can catch it, and we can track with that pattern, and we can contribute and add to that pattern. If someone else initiates it, we can dance to that tune and improve on the dance, but someone else has to initiate. That's where we come in.
I understand what you're saying. Okay. So hold that thought. because we're going to come back to this, David, as to what we can do, because these guys are coming for us. I mean, World War III is already started, in my opinion. Okay. It's already happening. And we are the target. Israel is a target. And the question is what we can do. I just want to bring up, before we get back into this, because I kind of want to bring this to an end game for us as far as what we can do. But I just want to answer a few other questions here, because there's a lot of people that are making comments. One of them is the I Am Fit podcast, which I was on about another issue, talking about another bad guy a few weeks ago. And Carlos has a question on here, and I'm going to put his thing up on screen, because before we leave this topic, I want to give this a fair airing out of, okay? Because we already kind of introduced this topic. So Carlos says, hi, Patrick. This is Carlos from I Am Fit podcast. I remember you well. I enjoyed our interview, by the way. Very good. We had an interview a few weeks back. Any consideration that America is actually Babylon in Revelation 18? What are your thoughts about that? Does anyone want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about that. And I'd like to say that there's a musician with the Freedom Cell Network who she has a song called Babylon that you should listen to. I say that Babylon represents modern civilization, the industrial, political, what would you say, the powers that be, the elite who have basically created a society where they're herding people like cattle, conditioning people like Pavlov's dogs en masse, and trying to push an agenda. It's you could sort of say that America is the Babylon. You could say it, but you could sort of say more or less that Western civilization, maybe, you could say that.
It's easy enough to say that the elites have created a new Babylon, for sure. And we've got into stuff, and maybe I'll be able to get into some of the stuff as weeks go by. But with the merging of machine and man that's going on right now, that people like Elon Musk are talking about, and many, many others, there's a lot of scary stuff going on. And obviously with this fake stuff that they've thrown onto us in the last couple of years, not that it's completely fake, but there is a lot of fakery going on amongst it. They have created a Babylon type of man is God type of, the more knowledge we have, we're going to get closer and closer to being God ourselves. And that's definitely going on big time in America and in the West. Anybody else wanted to, Brian, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think the real question is, okay, if so, what's it mean? What's it mean for us? What does that mean? If it is true, okay, now what?
Right.
You could probably find America in a few places in the Bible. I know I've heard argued quite a few times, but okay, what's that mean? Do you just pack up and move to Israel? I mean, what do you do?
Well,
so
if America,
I think that's the real question.
Good question.
If America is supposed to be the Babylon, then what's that make Russia, China, and all the other people? I mean,
Right.
We for a long time we're in the light of the world, and we're losing that light. But there's other people that's causing that, and we're falling short for that. So I personally believe God made America to be the light of the world, to be the protector of Israel. This is the only place that you can go and know what real freedom is, regardless of all the evil that's going on there. So I still got, I'm out to, that's out. I'm not really ready to say that America is the Babylon. I think we're losing God is judging us for disobeying what he's given America to do. Okay. I mean, he's not going to, you think he's going to let 61 million babies just go by the wayside and, oh, no problem. Go kill 62 more million. I forgive you. No, we're going to have to answer for that. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. To me, it's like we're fighting the average American person who hopefully, some are watching this show right now. To me, I think we are not Babylon ourselves. We are in between two worlds. You might call a lot of these Western elite people who run much of the world. Yeah, there's kind of a Babylon mentality. Then there's kind of like rebellious regimes like Russia who are kind of fighting these guys. But just because these guys are fighting each other doesn't make one of them right. It doesn't make Russia right just because they're fighting the worst of the West. I think you've said that before, Brian, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we're kind of stuck. We're kind of put in between the two of these people, these two regimes that are fighting for supremacy. And you can throw the Muslims into that. You can throw, many people in there that want to rule the world. But the average people, just like the average person in Ukraine, for instance, just wants freedom. The average person in America who isn't totally blind by what's been going on wants freedom. But it's the powers that be now that have so much power that are really, that are really kind of running things. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, it actually curves back into the Bible when a lot of people compare the dream of Daniel to there's where he's discussing a future empire that has one, I believe it's 1 foot of iron and 1 of clay.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've heard that compared back to America too. And it's a lot of these things are apropos, but what it comes down to is, okay, even if that's the case, then what does that mean to you? What does it mean to how we handle things from here on out?
I agree. And I like that you're keeping it on, because that's what I'm really like about solutions as well. Like, we can say whatever we want, but what are the solutions? David has mentioned this, and you've mentioned this too, Brian. You have boldactionnetwork.com, right? Where
Absolutely,
you're trying to like help, people to work out solutions. We definitely need to be talking to each other. Where we live, there may be a need at some point, maybe not that far off, to physically live closer to people that you are simpatico with, right? So you can kind of work together in certain ways.
There's people that think our way everywhere you can go.
Right.
You just need to find them and need to find your niche and what you can do to make a difference. What's going to make the biggest difference for you, and find other people that have done it, even if they're not local. And that's what the Bold Action Network's about.
Good. That's right on. So either locally or not locally. Let's just talk about nitty gritty stuff for a minute, because we can talk about like where we want to go and what we want to do. We definitely want to. I think everybody here is a pro God, pro Declaration of Independence, pro Constitution, pro American person, men, and that's a key of itself is being pro those things. And so we can talk, and this won't be the end tonight by any means of these kind of conversations. It's just the beginning in many ways. As far as what China is doing, bringing it back to where we were talking about at the beginning, assuming the worst, and that China and Russia and others are gunning for the United States and Israel, in short term, what can we do? I have some thoughts, but anybody can grab this right now.
I have some thoughts on this. Well, we all have thoughts on it. I'd say right off the bat, I remember the words of who's that guy in Blue Bloods? Tom Selleck, and he was actually quoting someone else on his show.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying that when it comes time for a difficult situation in life where you're not able to do everything that really needs to be done to address that situation, such as when you're being overwhelmed by superior forces and you're going to get your butt kicked and there's going to be huge, horrible losses. He said, I cannot do everything, but I can do something. I will not allow the things I cannot do to prevent me from doing the things I can do.
Amen.
Okay, so this is important to remember. Yes, you will get your butt kicked. Yes, there will be a horrible slaughter. Yes, there's going to be mayhem. Yes, the ships will be sunk. Yes, the town will burn. Okay, you're still capable of doing something. And it's like Washington said, as long as I hold a corporal's command, I will make some endeavor. And we all hold a corporal's command. We all can do something. We mustn't allow ourselves to be paralyzed by the immensity of what's breathing down our faces right now. And if you could remember that, you don't have to do it all. Other people will do other stuff. We can't do it all anyway. And it's not meant for us to do it all like Superman.
But can we at least say that the average person now, knowing the danger that we're in with China right now, especially China right now, and maybe that not this moment China's going to make a move on us. They got to make a move on Taiwan before they make a move on us, I think. But I have heard that China has been studying with Pearl Harbor and some of the mistakes of the past, and have thought about the idea of attacking us on, kind of surprise attack kind of thing that happened. Has anyone else heard that, by the way?
They've been discussing that for years and years.
Long time.
Because
Probably the day
of course,
after
I
Harbor.
have no doubt that they have hundreds of plans, because any massive country that has any type of military that can take over other countries, either in defense or offense, has a whole bunch of contingency plans.
Okay.
And so I'm certain they have multiple plans and have for many years. Now, whether they're actually going to put it into play or not is a whole nother question. What's important, though, is our individual mindset, that we're not shocked when something like that occurs. If something like that, when they invade Taiwan, when I remember hearing people that were shocked that Russia went into Ukraine, like David said, it's this is nothing that you couldn't predict.
Right.
But you have to be open to the idea that anything crazy can happen, especially right now. And don't be shocked. Don't be thrown out of your center just because something crazy is happening in the world.
Yeah, and it's
Like
something
Pearl Harbor.
like Pearl Harbor. Something I have to say about the difference between what they call the third world factor in wars, about third world troops, that they're poorly organized, poorly fed, poorly trained, poorly motivated, poorly everything, and poorly deployed. Okay. If you have a unit, let's say a battalion of third world troops, and they come under fire in an ambush, the entire mass will react to that one point of ambush where the fire is coming from. They'll all hyper react to it and start delivering fire against that one point.
Right.
And whereas first world troops, the section that is receiving the fire will return fire to that point on the perimeter. The other sections will empty fire on their guarded perimeter sections, and they will hold formation. They will not be daunted by some cheap trick that only works on third world troops. And so we mustn't hyper react to expected catastrophes as they come crashing down on top of us. We kind of need to keep to the core, keep to our agenda, keep to our strategy.
Well, yeah. Let me just say this. You got something like an EMP strike, okay? And that could come from anybody. We've heard that Russia might pull something like this, that China might pull something like this, whatever. We know that we're vulnerable, as far as I can have heard. Okay, we're vulnerable to something, so we should just know straight up that it's possible to be knocked out by an EMP strike, which would mean the internet as we know it, the deliveries to the stores, all those things could stop in an instant. The question is, I think now we're at the point where we were maybe in the Great Depression or World War II, where you have to assume a warlike footing and be ready. As you said, Brian, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Therefore, the average person should, at the very least, have water. I mean, I'm getting very basic here. Have water, okay? Have canned food. Have very basic things. Have skills that they start building. Obviously, the first skill is praying to God, meditation, prayer. And so you know how to stay calm in a warlike situation. Because if you don't have your head right and your heart right, you're not right with God, it doesn't even matter if you did survive. You could survive and go straight to hell anyway. So these are the most important things, but these basics, people need to know that we are in danger, and they ought to get ready for the danger just in case. And the worst case scenario, in a way, nothing happens for a certain period of time, and you have some extra food, a little extra food that you rotate around or something.
Yeah, the people who are watching. Okay, speaking of this, does anyone know what this is?
Is that bok choy?
I know what it is.
It's related to bok choy.
Is it Malabar?
No, it's not Malabar. That's not Malabar.
Oh, sorry.
This Well, actually, this one, I'll cheat. I'll say this is Malabar here. This is actually Madeira vine, which is a cousin of Malabar. I have Malabar growing in the pot too, but and this is something probably we'll talk about this on another talk. When
Yeah, it's a good tease though, and some of the stuff grows. Some of the stuff grows very well. Some of this vine stuff grows very well, especially in places like Florida that's hot.
Yeah,
but
and it grows by itself, and you don't have to really take care of it, and it's perennial, and you don't have to reseed it year after year. Walking stick cabbage, tree collards, they last for years. You plant them, 7 years later, you're still harvesting from the same plant. The plant's 12 feet high, and you're picking leaves off it, and it's feeding you. Low maintenance. Malabar spinach will cover a house. Low maintenance, perennial. We all should be growing this stuff. We should be planting it. Okay. Food, dig up those stupid lawns, dig up the junipers, and plant food in your front yards. But I mean,
and you need bulk food too. Malabar is great and stuff like that, but you need bulk food too.
You need potatoes. You need potatoes and yams,
corn and stuff.
Corn. You need the high calorie foods, which nobody knows how to grow.
David, we'll probably do a whole show on this sometime. By the way,
yeah.
Right.
Let me ask you this though.
Go ahead, Robert.
It's good.
Rice, yeah.
Certain people have
Thanks, Tibar.
the means to and the intelligence to save and maybe grow a garden, like you say, Sandy. But there's millions of people that don't have no idea or any clue to do this or the means.
Yes.
So what is God doing about those people?
I have an answer. I have an answer.
Go ahead, David. I do too.
Okay. This is a good question, and it's not just a good question. It's a central question that we need to be concerned with. The answer is, okay, it's not going to do for millions of people to not know how to grow food and not be growing food and to be caught unaware. So God has sent them us, and it's our job to grow the vegetables in our front yards, get in people's face with this, pick the stuff in the morning and hand vegetables to people who are walking their dogs, teach people in the neighborhood, teach our stupid relatives to grow their own food, teach the kids of our stupid relatives to grow food, put the homeschooling kids to work, don't let the homeschool kids play video games, tell them to farm the land, that's their job. The parents are doing their job, bringing home the bacon. The kids are supposed to bring home the collard greens.
Yeah.
Okay. And grow enough food to feed the whole family, not a sissy garden with a few herbs or a few tomatoes, a real garden where you're actually providing 50% to 90% of the food the family's eating, a garden with calories in it. When we do this, and we grow it efficiently and we tell other people about this, they'll get the idea, and we'll find that maybe 5% of all the people we tell this to will adopt the practice, especially if we coach them heavily. We have to provide them with in-depth coaching. We have to help people along. They don't have a clue as to how to do this. I put a lot of studying into different agricultural methods. I concluded the Mittleiter method is the method for mass food production. I'm familiar with a bunch of other methods which all have merit. I've developed a few methodologies myself which can help.
Yeah, very good.
But this is the answer, is that no, it will not do for millions of people to have no clue about this. And we are what God has sent. So with that one brain cell we have in our heads that's working, that distinguishes us from our stupid relatives and our stupid friends who have their HBO, who have their 72-inch screens, whose kids are playing video games, who they're going to the public school worried about grades for their basketball championships, okay, when the 17-year-old is throwing baskets when they should be mastering machine shop, okay?
David. All right, I had to stop you at some point. Hey,
someone has to control it.
Yeah, we will do. We'll do stuff in the future because I've been planning on having David on anyway, and we'll have David on.
That's the answer.
We'll have David on to do more in-depth stuff as needed, behind the scenes and be in front of the scenes as needed. I would say one other thing, and Fabian kind of said this before I could even get it out of my mouth to you, Robert. let's also do the basic stuff that can be done right now. Like I was just coming home a little earlier and my gas tank was below half. You know, it was going down. You know what? I went over and got some gas. I just gassed up my car, right? I mean, we're talking about very basic things. Get water, especially if you live in an area that's low on water. Get extra water and canned goods, man.
That's what I was gonna say to Sandy, because I've been telling my family, friends at work, you know what? If you go and go to the store, pick up 10 extra cans of beans or stock up on the water, stick it in the closet, because I almost got a year and a half worth of food in my house.
Well,
that I built up, and just simple stuff like that.
That's the thing too. Is to say, well, people say, "Oh, I don't have money for this or that." Well, you have money for lots of stuff, and beans and rice don't cost a lot of money. And canned goods.
What is that? Is that horse?
What are you?
I don't think you could say that out loud without us being
don't say
cut
that.
off.
Oh yeah, don't say that. I can't say that out loud. He's showing something that people use as a therapeutic for certain illnesses that have come around.
That's correct. Animal sources.
Yeah.
Animal sources.
You're about to get us cut off.
Yeah, they're gonna AI this thing and grab this as one of the photos that will be used as the thumbnail for my stream, right? Thanks, Rob.
10 cents a milligram. I believe it's 10 cents a milligram.
By the way,
14 cents a milligram.
By the way. Okay, listen. We're limited as to what we can show on this, just so people know. I am on rumble.com. I haven't have a huge presence there, but I have had a presence there for a little while with some of my videos. But when we want to do these in-depth things, especially about these illnesses and some of the crap that's going on, I will put it on Rumble and I will promote it over here and tell you guys, hey, look over on Rumble, because I can't show it here, but I'll let you guys go to the other place on Rumble so you can see it. Because that's where other places is where we're going to be able to say more things than we can say here.
I'd like to say, too, something else you could do fairly close to immediately. Brian has his own network. Get familiar with Brian's network. Get familiar with it. Spend some time when you're eating lunch. Check out his websites and see about plugging into his network. There's some good stuff there.
Thank you.
There's also other
Here network. It is.
Yeah.
Right there. BoldActionNetwork.com.
There it is. Easy for you. Check out his network, see how it can apply to you, see what you could learn from it. And the purpose of networks is to plug into. So you're part of a net. A net is a matrix. Every dot is a point, and the lines connecting them are the pieces of line, and it forms a unified net.
I agree with you, David. Networking is really important.
Yeah, and we're all stupid individually, but collectively, in a coordinated fashion, we're geniuses.
Right.
We have to depend. Form the tortoise.
If someone wants to get in touch with David, can they email you? Can I show your email on the screen or not?
Yeah, I guess they could email me.
They
could go to my Facebook. My Facebook isn't Mr. Sandy Fontaine. My Facebook is David Cracchiolo. They'll see me holding some plants. I'm holding some plants that I sprouted in a planter.
Okay. Good. Do you want me to put your email address on screen or not?
Put my email out there.
Okay, here he is.
But
David's email.
David's email address at juno.com. Something hard to forget.
Address. Somebody wants to reach. Oh, I lost everybody for a minute. If anybody, go ahead, David. You were starting to say something. I got cut off.
It may take me a while to get back because I get flooded with a bunch of junk emails, and I have to try to delete them each day and then get back with the ones that are actually have substance to them.
I hear you.
I'm a big advocate of networks. We have to become the nuclei, condensation nuclei. When you have fog forming, water vapor will not condense into rain unless it has condensation nuclei. Those are little particles of dust or molecules floating in the air, and the water molecules will rally around these particles that are suspended. No condensation nuclei, it doesn't matter what the humidity level is, no water will go into liquid form.
Mm-hmm.
So we must be condensation nuclei, those of us who have a little bit of insight, and we have to act on it and basically form networks and mentor other people and basically share what we know that is of value and maybe engage in projects with our fellow human beings, and share information on how to grow your own food, share information on how to set up your own businesses, share information on how to address a COVID attack. How do you deal with a COVID infection? How do you deal with RNA-based virus infection, now that we know how to do that? And like I say, all of us are dummies individually, but each of us has our own specialties. And we're very strong in our own specialties, the areas that we're interested in, where we've sucked information in. We're very good in certain avenues.
It's teamwork.
It's teamwork. So I'm a dummy in certain respects, okay, but I know about this and this and this, and I can help you with this and this and this by just sending you information. This is how you do this.
Yeah, very good. All right, very good. Thank you, David. And Robert Campbell, you can see his work on raptureready.com and raptureforum.com. You're going to be doing, well, can I say what you're working on something, but I guess I don't know until it comes out. Maybe I shouldn't say what it's about, but well, you could say what the topic of it, right? That you're going to be talking about on your next one.
To go of how it looks just like Noah.
Oh, we're in the days of Noah. Right.
But people just have no clue what's going on around them. And then anything goes. That God is out of the picture now. Dope is now the best thing to do now. Drugs. And my people, black people, are just, there is no family unit anymore. They're just out there. This last generation is just has no one to turn to. They're just walking in any direction, but anything goes. And, like I said about abortion, we're all happy and tickled pink that we ended abortion. In reality, just a political thing to me. We're still responsible, and we're still killing babies in the womb. So it's just amazing how Satan and evil is just overtime working us over, and we so-called Christians and conservatives are just sitting back waiting on either God, Jesus, or Super Trump.
Well, can we end that here and just say, because I don't want us to be associated with the average conservative anymore. Okay? Yeah, I think of what we're trying to do is this positive solution. And I understand everything you guys say is true. And yet I don't want that covering on me. The average, I want us to be known as a solution-oriented show.
Yes. And that the average conservative, you could say the average Republican is a Weimar Republican. And if you want a Weimar Republic, just keep re-electing Weimar Republicans.
Did you make that up? That's a bumper sticker.
Yes. Right, we should make a bumper sticker and put a Weimaraner on there.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Fabian says, beam me up. And, he's partially kidding, but partially not. But I think, again, that gets us back to if God is going to beam us up at some point, that's great. I think anybody would love to be beamed up. But while we're here, so far, I've noticed that all four of us have not been beamed up yet. So I think we have work to do while we're on this earth, right? However long that's going to be.
And part of our work is to work with our fellow man.
Yes.
And to learn to communicate and learn to work as a team and learn to work as a family. And it's lame if we just have leaders and sheep. We all need to be more like cooperative, where people are sharing their knowledge, but sharing their skills and their expertise and coaching other people, so that, in other words, it's not enough to be successful in ourselves and talk about how successful we are and how great that is. Our success is measured by how much of that success we've been able to impart to the doofuses in our family. And it's kind of like the Jewish community ethic, is that if there's one Jew in your community who's poor, the whole community should be ashamed of itself for allowing them to be poor. Everyone in that community needs to be successful, and they're all responsible for that.
Yeah, we've got our work to do. And like I realized for myself, I was thinking about some stuff today. I'm like, wow, we've all pretty retarded. Speaking of retarded, and I say we're not supposed to say that, but we're all pretty retarded in different ways. And along the way, we've just not known certain things. And now we're kind of making up for lost time, I guess you might say. So I'm here, Atlas Rhythm said, we're taking questions. Well, probably not so much more in this show because we're wind up, but maybe we perhaps some of you guys back and we'll take more questions. Hopefully we took a few. What we did was best we could here. But anyway, the point is we're doing the best we can with what we've got, right? That's what you guys have been saying. We're here right now. Whatever we've done or not done or fallen down on our face, even Jesus fell 3 times with the cross while walking to the crucifixion. We've all stumbled in different ways, but it's not about stumbling. It's about what we're able to do now, especially together. So we're making up for lost time, and through the grace of God, we will help ourselves, our families, and those people who are interested in being helped to, God willing, survive and do well in this world and get their soul right for this world and the next world.
And I'd like to, on that note, I'd like to ask Brian and Robert, and then also myself, if we could just briefly summarize in the future when we do these live streams with you, what do these guys, what particular topics or areas do these guys want to cover and hit that they think are important that the viewers should they want to share things with the viewers?
Yes.
And then Brian, Robert, and then I'll talk about what I'd like to talk about in the near future.
Okay. I think that the main thing when it comes to politics is having a basic understanding of what is going on, but at the same time being able to be distant enough from it to be able to and know what your piece is in it. What am I supposed to do? What do I do about what's going on? And how do I handle everything that's happening? So all those issues surrounding that, I'm really good at. And also when it comes to organizing, networking, getting people together, including building up businesses. Although I agree with David, it's most people probably shouldn't even try, but there are those who are closer to it. So those people ought to be out there, be leaders, and do the things that are necessary. And so any of those issues I'd love to be a part of.
Great. And that was go ahead, Robert. I was going to stick up your information one more time for people. And we're here it is. boldactionnetwork.com is yours, Brian.
And there's not much there. That site specifically is to start kind of growing a group together so that we could start talking about these things.
Good deal. And David's email address at juno.com. And Robert's is rdtcmttsa at mail.com. Robert, go ahead. And I guess this is more or less your guys' closing statements here.
I just want to speak for the little man. I'm not an expert in anything. I just see it from an average layman. And I try to curate my article. I try to talk to the regular people. I'm not trying to act like I know anything. A lot of times people don't know how to see what's going on. But when somebody speaks it, and they say, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about."
That's right.
I just want to keep it simple. And one other thing, my job is to, I got written up on my job because I was talking about politics and religion. But when I'll help a person when he asks a question. Like one person said, "Well, I'm voting for Trump," and this same person said, "I hate Trump. I can't stand him." I said, "What are we going to do about all this?" We'll say, "Well, next time, go to the polls and vote."
Yeah.
Okay. And don't vote with emotion. Vote with facts. What do you see happening? You see it right in front of you, and that's where I'll come in and say, "Well, ask me. I'll tell you what you need to do. Just be right in what you're thinking." That's it.
And you're a example. That's we haven't talked a lot about the power of example, but the power of example is huge. And that would be an example, like if you were growing food and showing people, doing that, that's an example. Or you at your work, I've talked to you a lot, Robert, about things like this, but you're an example of the work ethic, the sound mind, all those things. People will come to you for advice because they know you have a sound mind.
Exactly.
Brian, by the way, on the way out here, David, Brian has some information for you. Talk about your growing food. He wants to make sure that he clears up something with you about growing food and handing it out to your neighbors. He said that don't grow any marijuana in your front yard, Sandy. You'll be arrested by the powers that be.
Unfortunately, if I grew marijuana in the front yard, I would not be arrested by the powers that be.
Yeah, that's the problem, huh?
That's part of the problem.
That's part of the problem. Oh my God! All right, you guys. You guys have been great.
I'd like to just say what I'd like to talk about in future live streams. I'd like to talk about networking. I'd like to talk about the Freedom Cell Network, which I think everyone should get familiar with. I'd like especially talk about the Mittleiter gardening method and some of the types of plants that people should be maybe focusing on first to put together their own homegrown, basically their own mini farm in their front yard and in their backyard, and maybe their neighbor's yard.
Good deal. Okay. Good deal. Thank you, David. And for myself, just go to oldschoolus.com for more of this. Natural health, success, and freedom are kind of like the three pillars that I always been talking about forever. That's what I learned from my parents. They were from the Great Depression. They kind of got that into me. And those are always going to be pillars, but a lot, I've come to more of a spiritual base, I think, lately more than ever. So there's a spiritual base on top of that natural health, success, and freedom that is part of oldschoolus.com and is always going to be there. And if you want to email me and ask about anything in particular or ideas for shows that you want to see or things like that, just go to info@oldschoolus.com. If you want to support our work, definitely, you can do that as well. oldschoolus.com. You can make donations monthly, one time or monthly if you wish. And the money gets put back into the business of Old School, of making what we do better, making everything that we do better, making the communications better, and just, doing better at everything that we're doing to help you guys out. All right, I'm going to look at the last comments before we go. It seems like we got a couple more. Yeah, people are on the way out. I want to thank you guys again, the panel. You guys did great. And God bless you guys. And we'll do more stuff in the future. And we're just going to help people along the way to live a better life. And if we can help each other, which I know we are and going to do and have been doing, that makes all the difference in the world, just to lend a hand to somebody who doesn't know what we know, and somebody can lend a hand to us, because there's a lot of stuff we don't know, as David talks about. What is that, a chia pet there? What is that?
This is something we all should know about. This is poisonous raw, but very nutritious cooked. This is chaya. This is the spinach tree. This is from Guatemala, Central America. They have about 4 domesticated species, and you should all be growing this because this will grow 20 feet tall, and you just harvest the leaves. You have all the greens you need without
Don't eat it raw.
Don't eat it raw. It will kill you. It has hydrocyanic acid. It has cyanide in it.
Oh, forgive me if I pass that plan up. Okay, I'm not going to take chances.
Chaya.
Thank you, guys.
Chaya.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, David. And thanks, Mind Over Energy, for holding down the chat. Atlas Rhythm, St. Louis 9, Fabian, Tibar, all the people that were here. Atlas Rhythm, Brian, everybody who's here today. I know there's others I haven't mentioned yet, but Carlos was here as well. And thanks for being with us. And we'll do more of these things, and we're going to help people out as best we can through God's grace, because we're not going to get anything without wisdom coming from God. Thank you, everybody, for being with me, and we will see you next time.
Take care.